I've collected pretty much most of the films that Hayao Miyazaki has directed / written, or just directed. I don't have Porco Rosso, but I think I have all the others. And I thought, what better time than to make a mini-series about these fantastic films. You can find plenty of them online, but the lengthy video essays, which I'm probably not going to do, but yeah, the lengthy video essays, most of them are probably going to be on the more important ones, such as the big Oscar-winning Spirited Away, which I do have as well, and I'll get to that one in time. But I thought I'd do them all that I own, starting with Nausicaa, of the Valley of the Wind. I've done minor amounts of research over the years through these films. I didn't do a lot, but I know enough about them to talk about them for a little bit. I just rewatched Nausicaa the other day in preparation for making this video that I had an idea to do after I binged through a couple of the Miyazaki films over the past few days. These films mean a lot of things to a lot of people, and I don't want to insult or take away any of that to anyone. Not that anybody watches these things. But I thought, why not talk about what they mean to me as an audience goer, as an audience viewer. So whatever. I'm gonna go through these. One interesting thing, though, is that for some of the films that I have from Miyazaki, I picked these up quite a few years ago, and they still show that the Disney owned the production rights, and I believe in the early 2000s, Disney did purchase the production rights, the distribution rights, for Studio Ghibli's films for the American audiences. So when an American would pick up a hard copy of a Studio Ghibli film, they would see that the Walt Disney name is here. They would probably find it over here as well. Right here. Right there. It's also on the back. They splattered their name all over it, even though they really had nothing to do with the making of it, outside of just the new English dub. Because they redubbed over all of them. They redubbed over all of them. And their dubs are fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about them. The Japanese dubs are always good, but the English dubs for these films are really good. They got some big names half the time for these. I believe in this one we have Mark Hamill voicing a character. He's not a big character in this one, but we'll get to the one that he voices in another movie that's a pretty big character in a minute. We also have Uma Thurman, who's in this one, voicing somebody. I believe it's the villain, the lady villain. And then we have what's his face? The Do It guy. Man, people's names. I know their names, but like the name of actually getting it out of my tongue always escapes me when I need to use it. Shia LaBeouf. That's it. Him. Shia LaBeouf, Transformers kid. Shia LaBeouf is also in this as the male co-star. As you can tell by the title of the film, it is about Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. If you know anything about Hayao Miyazaki, he ends up having a larger narrative than just the basic story that you're seeing. Outside of the film Howl's Moving Castle, which is just a film adaptation of a book, I believe all of the films that he has both written and directed tend to have that Miyazaki-ness about it. And I'll be talking about a couple other things that he tends to share across his films in the future when I start talking about others of his films. But for this moment, we'll just talk about the Miyazaki-ness of this film, which is an ecological type of Miyazaki one. He cares about the environment. And this film is a film about humanity that had destroyed their environment through a chaotic time period a long time ago, where they crafted all sorts of creepy, spooky things that destroyed the world in fire. The survivors are living out their lives in varying degrees of success. The society that tends to be living out the best, nicest life is the Wind Valley. The Wind Valley is a small little area home to a couple hundred people, and Nausicaa is their princess. Her father is a bedridden old man who we hear has inhaled too much of the toxins of the nearby forest. The forest being a very, very, very polluted, growing ecosystem of very many things, plants, animals, primarily insects, mutant giant insects that have evolved to kill mankind if they encroach upon their terrain. But they're very intelligent, these insects are. And Nausicaa knows that they're intelligent. She even speaks to some of them. And the main insect that has the biggest focus is also on the cover of this film. This is called the Omu. O-M-U. The Omu. The English dub tend to just call it the Om. It just sounds like they're saying the Om. So I'm probably just going to say that. But sometimes you see the spelling as Omu. I don't know if you pronounce the U, but whatever. It's there. Nausicaa is well-liked, loved by her entire village. Her entire settlement just views her as amazing. And while she's out exploring the forest, looking for supplies to bring back to the village to do stuff with them, she encounters Lord Yupa. Lord Yupa's opening scene, when he returns to the Valley of the Wind, feels reminiscent of a Lord of the Rings film sequence from Fellowship of the Ring, when Gandalf first returns to Hobbiton. That scene in Lord of the Rings with Gandalf and Hobbiton feels very very similar to the scene of Lord Yupa going to Hobbiton. We have Gandalf played by Ian McKellen, who plays Magneto in the X-Men films trilogy, and we have Lord Yupa in this, who is played by Sir... Man, why do I forget names right when I need to know them? Patrick something. Sir Patrick something. He plays Professor X in the X-Men films. So that's interesting in itself, I guess. We have Patrick here, who is blah 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 blah, Lord Yupa, and we have Gandalf, who is Ian McKellen, and they're the villains and the rivals in the X-Men series. So I just thought that was pretty cool to have those little two connected, mirrored little scenes that I thought were connected in some way. Whatever. So after that, we learn that Lord Yupa is the world's greatest swordsman. We don't really see too much of that. This film has a really kind of pacifistic vibe to it, where it shows that violence is usually never the answer and usually just begets more problems than it solves. In some sequences of this film, I might tend to disagree, which we'll talk about in a moment. These videos might end up being anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes long, and I don't know if you want to sit through them, but I'm going to try to be quick through them. I'm going to try to just rush through them, but I doubt I'll be able to do that quick enough. So, almost immediately after Lord Yupa returns to the Wind Valley and we show that everybody loves Nausicaa, the Talmachian Empire invades. Because the night previously, a Talmachian ship on fire crash lands into the Wind Valley, and we see that they were carrying a giant egg of something, which we learn is an egg of one of the warriors that destroyed the world. The warriors being these giant titan creatures, these super weapons, bioweapons, that the old world created for wars and all that crap. And we now know that the Talmakians wanted this giant warrior for themselves. They had also taken captive a lady of the of a rival kingdom, Pechite. That's it. So they also kidnapped a princess of a rival kingdom of Pechite. Everybody dies on the ship except for the egg. So the following morning, a large fleet of Tamekian airships invades the Valley of the Winds, and contrary to what any of the Tamekians say, they are invading. Their soldiers jump out with tanks, guns, and all the things, and they immediately surround the village. They bundle everybody together in the town square. They barge into the castle. Nausicaa goes to her father, worried for her father's safety, and they kill her father. So she, being upset with such a violent rage, strikes out in anger against the Tamakins until she is stopped by Lord Yupa. Lord Yupa says that if she causes too much more pain and suffering to the Tamakins, the only people who are going to suffer for those actions are her own people, the Valley of the Wind, who have been captured. So she surrenders, and Lord Yupa brokers a non-violence clause, temporarily, whatever. So they're gathered into this town square, where the enemy princess, we're just gonna call her the Tamakian princess, because her name, which I know, once again, I can't think of right now, it starts with a K, though. Kushana, I think, something like that. I'm terrible with names, did you not know yet? So, the princess, the Tamakian princess, goes on about a spew about how she's not here for violence, despite everybody being surrounded by guns aimed at them, tanks and all that stuff. It's a really swell speech about her trying to convince these people to join her cause, because she is trying to unite the world against the forest and the insects and all the toxins. She wishes to burn it all down, to clean the air, and make the world habitable again. Noble causes, right? Well, then why did you forcibly conquer this village, kill their king, and forcibly push everybody into the village square, surrounding them with guns and tanks and all that stuff? That sounds like a really bad idea when you're trying to get people to help you. I doubt you even needed their help to begin with, really. This is just the one moment of questionable motives that I have for this villain character. If she really wanted these people's help, she would have come peacefully, but she came through the path of violence, which we are later going to learn is a major integral part of this person's character. The Tamakian princess is all about violence being the answer. She has taken the path of bloodshed to be how she negotiates and talks about things. She doesn't really explain why this is the path that she has chosen. It just happens to be the path that she has chosen, which is a stark contrast to Nausicaa, who has taken the path of pacifism and trying to democratically talk out the problems that she has with other people instead of taking it to the sword. So after some talks and yada yada, and the people learn that their king has been killed, they're all very upset, but Nausicaa calms them down and tells them not to get violent against these people because, you know, they outnumber you like 10 to 1, they have giant guns, they have giant tanks, they have disarmed your military, they have killed your king, and they can probably kill everybody else just as easily, so I suggest you all just chill for the moment. Then she and some hostages, about 5 hostages, are taken onto an airship of the Tamakians as they head towards somewhere. Who knows what this lady has planned? We have no idea. She's just going by the seat of her pants, this Telmachian princess lady. So while they're flying over the forest, the toxic forest, we see a red airship off in the distance, and we are later told it's a Pejai airship. And this airship starts blowing up the entire Telmachian fleet. And we even get a line by one of the characters, I think Mito, who is the eye patch sidekick of Nausicaa. Mito ends up making a notion that these airships are very flimsy if only a few shots could destroy the entire giant craft. You'd think that the Telmachian princess or the hostages would be on the nicer looking airship that doesn't get blown up, because this Pejai aircraft destroys the entire fleet save for the one Telmachian airship that actually looks like it was built within the last 100 years. So I'm over here cheering on this Pejai aircraft. Meanwhile, Nausicaa's shouting for him to stop with all the violence, but I'm over here thinking like, dude, if he blows these guys up, then you could go home. You won't have to worry about them anymore. They're all gone. But, so the Pejai airship gets shot down by the one Telmachian airship that didn't go down one hit that looks like it was built recently. So while Nausicaa's aircraft goes down, the one that she's held captive on, she ends up escaping with Mito to go find the other 4 hostages of her village that are on a cargo ship that got shot down. They need to go track that thing down in the forest. And she also wants to look for the guy in the Pejai aircraft in case he survived. She also saves the Telmachian princess for very questionable reasons, but you'll find that I am not necessarily the forgiving type for a lot of these things. I try to be, but I wouldn't necessarily forgive the Telmachian princess for conquering my village, killing my father, and holding all of my people hostage. I wouldn't necessarily forgive her for that, and I would have just left her there, personally. But Nausicaa, you will find, has a heart of gold. She has a heart of gold and has very big forgiveness about her. And she saves the Telmachian princess. For good or for worse, she saves her from the falling aircraft. And they crash land into the forest below as they seek to repair their gunship. The Wind Valley gunship that the Telmachians commandeered. There's a little scene about it later. So they find the other 4 hostages that had crash landed as well. They fix everybody up, and everybody goes running off. But then Nausicaa gets separated from the group when she finds the Pejai kid who blew up the Telmachian fleet. I'm still laughing about that, by the way. One small little Pejai airship destroyed an entire Telmachian fleet. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder how Pejai lost to the Telmachians. Is this just a tiny little contingent fleet of the Telmachians? If so, if one of these Pejai aircrafts could take out this entire fleet, just imagine what a fleet of Pejai aircraft could do. Anyways, Nausicaa saves the boy. They get trapped underwater through some quicksand. They find out that the underground area has a flowing stream, and the petrified tree trunks of the forest above are crystallizing into sand, fossilizing, and they're purifying the soil. Basically, the Earth is trying to heal itself from the actions of the humans of the past few millennia. And Nausicaa realizes that if the Telmachian princess burns down the forests and jungles, that this purification process may halt, the insects may get mad, and this war crap will never end. So she's trying to get the Telmachian princess to stop and see reason. And right now, the Tamakian princess is kind of flabbergasted that Nausicaa would even save her. See, I was surprised that Nausicaa would save her, because, I would have left her there. But the Tamakian princess herself even agrees with me that she should have just left her there to die. Because the Tamakian princess isn't just going to drop her morals and her little way of life automatically after her life has been saved. She's going to continue doing what she believes is what she does, which is what I knew she would do as well. But now that the Tamakian princess, she's very interested in the way that Nausicaa thinks, so that sparks that whole little character plot line that goes a little somewhere, goes somewhere. So Nausicaa and the kid, they escape the forest, the jungle, and they go to Pejai since it's closer, the kid says. And they find that Pejai has been destroyed. The insects have stampeded into the capital city of Pejai, and everybody's gone. But then the Pejai kid learns that there is a Pejai aircraft up in the sky, and it has survived the slaughter. But then you learn that these Pejais actually deliberately caused this stampede to their place to get the insects to stampede towards the Wind Valley to destroy the Tamakian fleet stationed there. Unbeknownst to them, that this kid that was piloting the Pejai aircraft had just basically destroyed 90% of the Tamakian fleet by himself. I don't think they realized that this kid did that, because they're now causing a catastrophic apocalyptic thing that's going to destroy more of the Wind Valley's people than what's left of the Tamakian army stationed at the Wind Valley. So it's kind of a little bit of a very dumb decision on the Pejai's part that Nausicaa now has to deal with. So she leaves the Pejai people behind to go to the Wind Valley to save her people from the stupidity of the Pejais and the Tamakians and their violent tendencies. And so now she flies off. She finds the plan that the Pejai people had put into motion to get the Ohm to stampede across the deserts to attack the Wind Valley. And she gets them to stop their stampede right in front of the Tamakian princess. And when the Tamakian princess learns how selfless Nausicaa is, she agrees to leave the Wind Valley alone. Note that she had basically all but destroyed it herself! But she doesn't really do anything to help with any type of reparations or anything like that. No, she's not going to do anything like that! She just up and leaves! And the film just up and ends. So you get to imagine that they rebuild their town. You get to imagine that Nausicaa lives a happy life, and that the Pejai survivors join the Wind Valley people, and everybody lives in harmony. I loved this movie, but you could tell that I had a few problems with it. There's a few things here that feel very forced for a narrative. But this is Miyazaki's very first film that he himself created from an manga adaptation that he made. This is entirely his own work. Prior to this, we had a Lupin the Third film that people really enjoyed, that he directed, but he only directed it. He didn't create Lupin the Third, no. But he created this. He created this from scratch. He made the manga, he created the film, his screenplay, he did all this. This is why I started here. This is the thing that he did first. He made this entirely on his own. You could tell that for a first-time process, he's still figuring it out. And the animation is top tier. It's beautiful. This is from the 1980s, but this has the type of quality of a Disney masterpiece, but from Japan. You can tell that's why Walt Disney wanted to get their grubby little mitts on. But I digress. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind is a beautiful film, a tale about selflessness, forgiveness, and the willingness to lay down your weapons despite your desire to get revenge for the violent and vile things people do to you, for the sake of just moving on and living your life in peace. And it's something that I needed to learn as well. You see, these are the types of things that Miyazaki tries to teach you in these films. You see, he makes these things not just to entertain, but he tries to teach you these things. You see, I would have left the Tamaki princess to burn. Had I done so, her second-in-command, an incompetent boy of a man in the Wind Valley, might have reacted a bit too violently towards the Wind Valley residents, and there might have been an open war breaking out there. And things could have gone far worse had the Tamaki princess not returned to get things under control and put things in a little bit of a more organized manner. Also, if the Tamaki princess had been killed, we later learned that this fleet is far from the only fleet the Tamaki Empire has, and that if you destroy this fleet, just another one's just going to show up, and if they think that, oh, you killed our princess, then we're gonna just wipe you off the map. We're just gonna wipe you off. I'm gonna rip you out, see? So, it's a good thing that the Tamaki princess didn't die, because had she died, the Wind Valley would have been destroyed by another Tamaki airship fleet. So, the Tamaki princess leaves in good faith with Nausicaa, who survives to the end of the film, of course, and everybody lives happily. The message here is an anti-war one, and it is also one where you need to start getting along with nature and start understanding it, instead of trying to conquer it and take control of it. The message is to live alongside it, rather than seek to command it. Because at the end of the day, long after the buildings have crumbled into dust and the human bones have withered away until there's nothing left, the earth is still going to be here long after you are. It's a powerful, big ball of things. And even if you destroy it in fire and everybody dies, life, finds a way. We're guests! That's what he's saying. He's saying we're guests on this planet, and perhaps we should be a little bit nicer to our hosts. But whatever, it's a very fun story. It's a very good story. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely in my top 5 Miyazaki films. It might even be in my second or third slot. We'll find out. But that was Nausicaa, at the beginning of my little mini segment where I talk about the Miyazaki films. I'm going to come back with the next one that he makes. The first one that Studio Ghibli did. This isn't a Studio Ghibli film, by the way. Miyazaki directed this with another smaller animation studio prior to this little Ghibli company being made, just like a couple years before it was made. But they treat it as if it's a Ghibli film, because, you know, Miyazaki owns the rights and all that stuff, and it says, I'm going to make this a Ghibli film. So they made it a Ghibli film, and they distributed it under the Ghibli name. But whatever. I get to stop this film before it hits 30 minutes. Be imaginative, everybody.